Hey, super cool bio students. Today we're going to take some notes, but we're going to try notes a little bit different. So what I have planned for us today is to try learning about cell structure and function through a video of a lecture instead of hearing it just from me. So my hope with this is that it's a little easier for you to pause, slow down if you need to, or if I'm going too slow, speed it up if you need to. So we're going to try this out, and then I'm going to ask you for some feedback, and we will see if we like this way of note-taking a little bit more, or if we like to do it all together in class instead. So like I said, this is going to be about cell structure and function. We're going to be exploring what are the structures and functions of organelles inside of cells, and are the organelles different in prokaryotes versus eukaryotes, and are they different in plants or animals? So as you watch this, please make sure that you're taking notes down on a piece of paper. Another good idea might be to make flashcards for these. And then when you're done, you're taking a Google form to make sure that you were listening and see how well you are understanding these ideas. So on to our first slide. Something that we covered on Monday was that cells are composed of organelles. If you remember on Monday, I said that organelle literally means little organ. Organelles are similar to organs in that they both have specialized jobs. So it says right here, organelles are specialized compartments of the cell that have specific important roles. Each organelle has a different job that it is responsible for doing within the cell. Today specifically, we're going to be looking at the organelle structure and function. Structure and function are two important words in biology. Structure is the shape of something or what something is made out of. The shape of something or what it's made out of is the structure. The function is the role or the job of that organelle. So what it's responsible for doing within that cell. A generic example that doesn't relate at all to organelles is actually one I like to use of a football. A football has a structure of an oblong shape that's made of rubber. I'm describing what it looks like and what it's made out of to describe that structure. The function of a football is to travel in the air far distances and be caught. It's pretty straightforward. The function is to go down the field and be caught by people on the field. So in this case, the structure, I'll turn my video off real fast, the structure actually helps with the function, and that's going to be something we see in our organelles as well. The football is purposely shaped like this so it can fulfill its job. There are organelles within the cell that have a specific shape to pull out a specific job. Something to remember is what we covered on Monday. Organelles of the cell actually vary with the type of cell we're talking about. So what I have on my screen now is an image of one cell type. If I examine this cell type, I see that it has this oval shape. It has the presence of cytoplasm, it has the presence of ribosomes, and then I see this keyword of a nucleoid. A nucleoid is just a condensed set of DNA. Since there is no nucleus present, I can conclude that this is a prokaryotic cell. So remember, pro rhymes with no. Prokaryotes do not have a nucleus. The other type of cell that we covered on Monday was eukaryotes. So on my screen right now, I now have a picture of a eukaryotic animal cell and a eukaryotic plant cell. If I look at both of these images, I see this orange circle in the middle that is labeled as the nucleus. I can also see that orange circle over here labeled as the nucleus. So in the case of both plant and animal cells, a nucleus is present, versus in prokaryotic cells, there is no nucleus. Instead, there is a nucleoid. So this is just Re-summarizing up what was just covered. Prokaryotic cells do not have a nucleus. They have no membrane-bound organelles. They are simple. They are not that complicated. They're just simple cells. And bacteria and archaea have this cell type. Versus eukaryotes have a nucleus, have membrane-bound organelles, and are complex. They have a greater number of organelles that have specific jobs. Protists, fungi, plants, and animals have this cell type. So up to this point, we've been just reviewing what we learned on Monday. Now let's start to get into some of that new information. Before we start to get into that new information, so you might be wondering, what am I expected to know about organelles? So like my slide says below, this is a list of organelles that you are expected to know. You should be able to tell me the structure of each of these. So find it on a picture, visually identify it. You should be able to tell me the function of each of these, what it does inside the cell, and what its job is. And lastly, you should be able to tell me what type or types of cells that organelle is specifically found in. So for example, let's say mitochondria. You should be able to tell me the mitochondria looks like a hot dog with ketchup on it. And you'll see that in a little bit. The mitochondria makes ATP for the cell. The mitochondria is found in both plant and animal cells, but it is not found in prokaryotes. So for each of these organelles, that is what you should be able to do for upcoming assessments and assignments. So let's go ahead and start to get into these. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to walk us through organelles that are found in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. They are found in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. That means that bacterial cells, archaea cells, protists, fungi, plants, and animals can all have these organelles inside of them. I'm going to once again turn my camera off, just make sure you can see the whole slide and the pictures. So let's look at organelles that are found in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. The first organelle that is found in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes is the ribosome. So up here, the name of the organelle, ribosome. It is found in all cell types. The ribosome's structure is shown to the right in these pictures. These pictures are showing us this is what a ribosome actually looks like. It looks kind of just like a little blob. Ribosomes are very, very small within the cell, so they're not as big as some organelles. The function of the ribosome is shown in the text. The ribosome produces proteins within the cell. The way that it does that is it joins amino acids together to form the protein. So it joins the monomers together to form the polymers. Ribosomes have the function of creating proteins. So that's a review of those macromolecule types we talked about a couple weeks ago. The monomer is amino acid, the polymer is the protein. Ribosomes can be found in two places within the cell. They can either be free floating inside the cytoplasm, or they can be embedded or part of the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Those terms might not make sense yet, but we're going to see those in just a little bit. Ribosomes can be found in two places, within the cytoplasm or within the rough endoplasmic reticulum, or ER. The second organelle that can be found in all cell types is the cell membrane. We've actually already seen the cell membrane before as well, when we were talking about diabetes and how insulin and glucose work together to enter or exit the cell. The cell membrane is the outer boundary of the cell that has an ability to protect it. The cell membrane can also fill the function of deciding what's allowed to enter or exit the actual cell. So as it says in the function over here, it determines what molecules, proteins, etc., what's allowed in and what's allowed out. So I think of the cell membrane like a security system. A security system decides, hey, you're allowed in, hey, you're not. And that's very similar to what the cell membrane does. Over to the right, we have pictures of the cell membrane. You can see that the cell membrane is composed of lipids. Lipids are right here, each of these circles with two tails. You can see how there's two rows of lipids to form that cell membrane. It is the outer boundary of cells and present in all cell types. The third organelle that is present in all cell types is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is a gel-like gunk that fills the empty space of the cell. Through this, it can keep everything in the right place. So in these two simple pictures over here, you can see a cell membrane, a nucleus. The cytoplasm fills all of the empty space within that cell. Same in this picture, the cytoplasm is all of this orangish kind of gunk. I think of cytoplasm like jelly or Jello, either or. If I put a whole bunch of objects within a bowl of Jello, like a ping pong ball or a pen, a dog treat, if I put them and press them into the Jello, I could shake the Jello container and it wouldn't be able to move. The ping pong ball would stay where it was, the dog treat would stay where it was, the pen would stay where it was. That's exactly what the cytoplasm does. It keeps everything in the right place. That's why I think of it as a gunk. So those are the three organelles that are found in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. All cell types have them. What we're going to look at now are organelles that are found in only eukaryotes. Both plant and animal cells will have these, but prokaryotes will not. Once again, eukaryotes, both plant and animal cells will have these. Prokaryotes will not have these organelles. The first one is the nucleus. Notice how I put EU next to it. That stands for part of a eukaryote. The nucleus is the control center of the eukaryotic cells. It decides what the cell is going to do. It's kind of like the boss of the cell. It says, make this protein. Cool. Make this lipid. Make this carbohydrate. Get this much energy. It sends out commands to the rest of the cell. The nucleus also holds DNA or chromatin inside of it. Right now, we're going to call those two words synonyms of each other. And later this year, we'll look at what is the difference between when I say DNA and when I say chromatin. The nucleus in diagrams is usually represented as a circle. That circle is holding the DNA or the chromatin inside of it. So you'll frequently see squiggly lines within that circle to represent what that looks like. Within eukaryotes, the nucleus will always hold all of the DNA. It will always be contained within the membrane of the nucleus. The second organelle that's present in all eukaryotes is the endoplasmic reticulum. Again, that's that endoplasmic reticulum, or more frequently, the ER. There are two types of endoplasmic reticulum, which have two separate jobs, smooth and rough. The smooth ER helps in the production of lipids. So it makes lipids in the smooth ER. Versus in the rough ER is embedded with ribosomes that help in protein production. So if we look over at this picture in the bottom, we can see that the nucleus is shown by this circle. The nucleus, and I'll grab my pen real fast. The nucleus is shown right here. And then the endoplasmic reticulum is right outside of the nucleus. That is true in all diagrams. In all diagrams, you'll see a nucleus with the ER right outside of it. The rough ER has ribosomes built into it. So it's literally called rough because it is not a smooth surface. It has bumps, and those bumps are the ribosomes. Versus the smooth endoplasmic reticulum has no bumps. They have two different roles. The rough ER, since it has ribosomes, it makes proteins, versus the smooth ER helps to produce lipids. The next organelle that's found in eukaryotes is the Golgi apparatus or the Golgi body. Those are synonyms. The Golgi apparatus or Golgi body packages proteins to be transported outside of the cell. So you can see it kind of has this wavy look to it. This Golgi body has this kind of wavy look. That wavy look signifies the Golgi body. You're typically going to see the Golgi body pictured right outside of the rough ER. The reason why is because these two systems actually work together to transport and send out proteins. So in the rough ER, which has these dots of ribosomes, these ribosomes make proteins. The rough ER helps. The Golgi apparatus can then send those proteins outside of the cell. So these three parts are working together to make that essential protein that's needed for the cell. Another one that's found in all eukaryotes is the mitochondria. The mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. It's one term that almost everybody remembers. Powerhouse of the cell is the mitochondria. That's because it provides energy to the cell. It creates energy that the cell can use. I say that this normally looks like a hot dog with ketchup on it. You see that long shape with a squiggly line back and forth. That's what the mitochondria is, and for some reason it just really reminds me of a hot dog with ketchup. Some cells will have more mitochondria than others. For example, muscle cells need a lot of energy, so it makes sense to have more mitochondria within the muscle cells compared to skin cells on your nose. The skin cells on your nose aren't really doing too much. They might have less mitochondria inside of them. So that was a list of all the organelles that are found in both found in eukaryotes, both plants and animal cells. We're going to look at now one organelle that is found only in animal cells that are eukaryotic, which is the lysosome. So I wrote it up here, lysosome, EU, animal cell only. Plant cells will not have lysosomes. Lysosomes are in charge of breaking down and disposing of waste or unneeded materials. So these are kind of like a trash center where things that aren't needed anymore can be broken down and potentially reused. The shape, it's shown in most diagrams, is just a circle. And I'll show it to you in just a little bit. But within this organelle of the lysosome, things can be broken down and reused. Our last set of organelles to look at are the organelles that are found only in eukaryotic plant cells. In other words, plants only have these organelles. Animal cells do not have these organelles. The first one is the cell wall. The cell wall is on the outside of the cell membrane. The cell wall is on the outside of the cell membrane. The cell wall helps provide a structure in plant cells. It can sometimes also be in prokaryotes. I wanted to add that right here. Some diagrams have them on prokaryotes, some don't. The cell wall forms the outside boundary of the plant cell over here. That outside boundary that we can see in both pictures gives structure and support for the plant cell. When we think about plants, plants don't have bones. Like humans, animals, we have bones that help us stand upright or stand tall. Plants do not have those. The cell wall is kind of like a bone, though. It provides a stiff structure so the plant can stand up straight and tall, even without having bones. So that's how I think of this function. I think of it as a different way to be able to stand tall and support the plant so it can grow nice and tall. The second organelle that's found only in plant cells is a central vacuole. The central vacuole is shown by these two arrows on these diagrams. You can see just how massive it is. The central vacuole is a large storage center for water in the plant cell to keep the plant cell hydrated. So plants don't have the luxury of being able to stand up and get a glass of water or walk over to a lake and get a sip. So it makes sense that they need a way to store water in case it does not rain or it's a dry day. So the central vacuole is purposefully large for a reason, to store the water and materials for the plant in case the environment changes. The last organelle that's found in plant cells only is the chloroplast. The chloroplast, plant cells only, and it does photosynthesis. So this is something a lot of us discovered in our gizmos. The chloroplast does photosynthesis by using sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to produce glucose and oxygen. Glucose is an energy source that the plant can then use for later. So the structure of a chloroplast, it's the reason why plants are green. It's this oval shape. And the way that I remember it is that it looks like it has stacks of pancakes inside of it. This chloroplast has little stacks of pancakes, and that's what a chloroplast looks like. Once again, only in plant cells, and the reason why plants are green. What we're going to do last to wrap up these slides, actually look at what do these organelles in animal and plant cells look like within a diagram altogether. So in the slides so far, you've seen each organelle separate. Now let's look at what each of these look like within a diagram. Later on, you're going to be expected to label a diagram just like this. So I pay special attention to how it's getting labeled and make sure you can visually identify these things. So first up, the first label we can see is the mitochondria. Again, I know that's the mitochondria from what I said before. To me, it looks like a hot dog with a squiggly line of ketchup on it. Again, the mitochondria is responsible for making energy within the cell. The second organelle that's labeled on here is the ribosome. Ribosomes, in the picture we saw on the slides, we saw them zoomed in, but they're actually much, much smaller than other organelles. Each small circle or small dot within the cytoplasm, or each small dot within the rough ER, is a separate ribosome. So if I pick up my pen and I mark these, I can see just how many ribosomes are within that section of the cytoplasm, and I can see how many ribosomes are actually embedded within the rough ER. Each small dot is one ribosome. Next up is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the jello that holds everything in place. In this picture, it's all the green gunk. Everything that's green inside the cell is the cytoplasm. It fills all the empty space and keeps everything in place. My next arrow shows the rough ER. The rough ER is located outside of the nucleus, and I can tell if it's rough or smooth based on the presence of ribosomes. This blue structure, this blue circle within the middle of the cell, is the nucleus. The nucleus holds all the DNA. The DNA is being shown by these squiggly lines. Next up, we have the smooth ER. It's located directly next to the rough ER, right outside the nucleus, and I know it's smooth because it doesn't have any ribosomes built in. Next up, we have the Golgi body. The Golgi body is, again, this wavy structure that's next to the endoplasmic reticulum. The Golgi body has the job of packaging and transporting proteins outside of the cell. So they get made in the ribosome, they go through the rough ER, the Golgi body then sends them to their final destination. Lastly, we have the lysosome. The lysosome is unique to animal cells only. Animal cells only have a lysosome, and it is responsible for breaking down unneeded or waste materials. So this is a completed diagram of labeling a eukaryotic animal cell. You will see a diagram just like this later that you will be in charge of labeling. Next, let's look at what a plant cell would look like. A lot of the organelles look similar or the same. So starting with this plant cell, you can pause me right here if you want to try to figure out what some of the labels are on your own. First one to label, I can see, is the mitochondria. It looks the exact same between both diagrams. It has the same structure and it has the same function. Structure looks the same, function, same job. Next up, we have the chloroplast. The chloroplast is green. That's a hint. And if I look closely, it looks like stacks of pancakes on top of each other. That's how I know it's my chloroplast. Then the rough ER. I figured out it was the rough ER by seeing the dots embedded within it to represent the ribosomes and how it's right outside of the nucleus. The ribosomes are, again, all of the little circles that are within the cytoplasm and within the rough ER. Then have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. I can tell it's smooth because it has no bumps. The blue structure, once again, symbolizes the nucleus, where these squiggly lines are the DNA. This large container is the central vacuole. Again, it stores water and materials for the plant to use later if needed. The Golgi body looks the same between both pictures. Plant cells have a cell wall and a cell membrane. The cell wall is being shown by the green versus the cell membrane is being shown by the yellow. The cell wall provides structure and support within the cell versus the cell membrane decides what is allowed to enter or exit that cell. Finally, we have the cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm is once again all of the green gunk to fill the empty spaces. So from labeling these two cells, you see some structures that are very, very similar. They look the same between both pictures, versus others are unique and only found within one or the other. Just a couple slides left, just a quick little trick for you. This is something we'll talk about more on Thursday and Friday. A trick that I like to use to remember what an organelle is responsible for is to use something called an analogy. An analogy is comparing something that the organelle does to something that's more relatable. So for example, I made this table to show how I do that. The nucleus is found in eukaryotes only. Nucleus, eukaryotes only. It has the job of controlling the cell and telling the cell what to do. To me, that reminds me of our high school's administration, our principal and our assistant principal. They tell us what to do. They are similar to the nucleus. So that's an analogy. Nucleus is similar to administration. Another one, the cell membrane. Protects the cell, decides what goes in or out of it. That would be similar to our school building security. They decide who's in, who's out. Same with the main office, who's in, who's out. Cell wall gives structure. It's similar to the walls of our school building. The ribosome makes proteins. I compare that to a copy machine. A copy machine makes copies. A ribosome makes proteins. That's similar to me. So you can read through the rest of this analogy. If it's something that interests you or seems helpful, feel free to use this one or try to think of one that works for you. Another example I've seen students use a lot is a post office. A post office is an easy way to make an analogy. A factory is an easy way to make an analogy. it's just a really good study tool to help remember what these things are. So just like that, we are all done with our notes about organelles. Just a quick reminder of what you should be able to do. You should be able to identify all the organelles we covered today. Their structure, what they look like, their function, what they do, and the types of cells that each of these are found in. You should be able to say, Miss Moore, the mitochondria looks like a hot dog with ketchup. It has the job of making energy for the cell. It is present only in eukaryotes and not in prokaryotes. So those are examples of, that's a quick example of what you should be able to do from this. As far as where you should be at right now, you should have a general understanding of what each of these organelles do. We'll keep reviewing these throughout the week. We will likely have a quiz on them next week. The last thing you are responsible for doing today, however, is complete the Google form review that's attached to this assignment to show that you watched the video and to see where you are at in understanding it. And just as a heads up, that Google form, if you are not happy with your initial score, it actually allows for you to reopen it, edit your answers, and resubmit. So if you get back an initial score that you are not satisfied with, feel free to reopen it, retry, and use your notes to help do a little better. Otherwise, that is all we have for notes today. If you have any questions, send me a message, and I'll ask you a little bit later on if this was more helpful, less helpful, or the same as normal notes in class. Otherwise, thanks for listening, and I will see you all tomorrow.